Welcome Leo to your in-depth monthly forecast for January 2025 for the Ascendant, the Sun or the Moon. Just briefly, if you've yet to watch your year 2025 forecast, please see the link beneath this video for more. I'm going to share with you some key strands to look out for this month, but then on screen your event chart right at the start of the month and of course the year. That helps us to understand the background energy which is going to permeate, but then as influences come in, I will go through those frame by frame and give you a really clear picture of what January 2025 holds in store for you. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundell, wishing you all the best for year 2025. If you're new to my channel, thank you for joining me. This is very much a community. If you have any thoughts, please do share them. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, we have found that 50% of people who regularly watch my videos are not subscribers. Please help the channel to thrive. Click that sub button, but also the bell notification symbol. Also, please like and share my videos too. If you'd like to order your year 2025 personal forecast based on your unique birth data, if you order in 24 you'll get the rest of the year free. In 25 you'll get a full 12 months from the time of the order. You'll also get my free gift of your zodiac, general, love, Chinese and Vedic forecast, as well as 30% off and your life roadmap report. Your life roadmap report is particularly influential because this helps you to understand the patterns that have played out in your life so far. The forecast helps you to time your moves, because knowing when the planets are helping or perhaps resisting your efforts is a critical feature of working with astrology. If you'd like to order from a whole sign perspective, a solar perspective if you don't know your time, draconic perspective if you'd like your soul perspective, please see the links below for more. Also, if you'd like to have a one-to-one with me, I am a consulting astrologer. Please check out my testimonials below and you can read exactly what people have said. I don't edit these at all. This year begins with a new moon energy, but it actually manifested right at the end of 2024. That black moon was giving you an opportunity to set your intentions around creating greater order and more efficient structures in your life. But the sixth house where it occurs can also be to do with work, as much as things like how much sleep we get, how much time we take exercising, what type of nutrients and food we're consuming. All of these finer details can be very much under the astral microscope. But there is another energy competing with that, which features Mars in your sign. Mars is a very passionate influence. In our own sign, it wants us to be more assertive, but it also wants us to demonstrate our individual talents. It's very much about our core ego, but it is opposed by Pluto right at the start of this month, which can be a mighty clash. If there is somebody who's resisting what you want to say and the attention you want to receive, this could cause a lot of palpable resentment between you. Mars is very much about what you want, but Pluto in Aquarius might be more about a collective vibe. So just be aware of that. Ironically, Mars inverts out of your sign and back into Cancer, where it is in its full on the 6th. And it's going to be there through to the 18th of April. But Mars in the 12th house can be a very powerful but subtle psychological trigger. Anything deep within you that is not fully reconciled, and it may be to do with things from your past, frustrations, unhappinesses, could really start to boil away. And when we get to the 13th and the full moon, also accentuating your 12th house, the psychological part of your situation is likely to be tender, but also ripe for some kind of reaction. And that's because Mars and the moon together can be a very volatile combination. But Uranus is also there as well. And Uranus for you continues, despite the fact that it's retrograde for most of this month, in the 10th house of how you connect to the wider world. And that may have been a choppy arena for you since March 2019, but it could have also been a time when you've raised your profile, particularly if you've had the confidence to follow your heart and your instincts and be totally true to who you really feel you are. Some of us, at some level, prefer to fit in and conform. Uranus has been pushing you not to do that. And in fact, in the last couple of weeks of this month, the link between Uranus and Mars suggests that an old talent or skill or experience of yours can come out in a new and fresh way and see you achieving greater recognition. But the latter part of this month, Leo, is all about relationships, which I will share with you shortly, and it can be very exciting indeed. So on the screen now, I'm sharing your event chart right at the start of the month. As ever, we need to be mindful of your ruler, the sun. At this time of the year, it's always at 10 degrees in the sign of Capricorn, and often I feel that Leo people might be setting those New Year's resolutions with some virtuous health targets in mind, but the moon has moved on from the exact conjunction of the 30th and the black moon, the new moon. But look at the moon, it is linking well to Uranus. So if you are someone who's prepared to try fresh approaches, that could be applauded by some, but resisted by others. Who will it be resisted by? Well, it may be that some people that you have to connect with and where you do need to be diplomatic, Venus, they're the ones that struggle a little bit with this more radical part of your personality that may be coming or may be provoked to come to the fore. So there you can see Venus in the 7th house, ordinarily a lovely influence for keeping things on an even keel. That's in a very tense right angle with Uranus. If you're in a romantic relationship where your desire to do something different doesn't conform to a partner's desire to keep it more practical and perhaps more traditional, that may be a talking point between you. But you can see that Mars is just on your first house cusp. That can, on the face of it, give you an energy boost, but because of the retrograde, it does suggest that this blueprint, the opposition with Pluto, that for the whole of year 2025, you may encounter some powerful collisions of will, particularly if you're born right at the start of the sign of Leo. But it is an opportunity also to have the confidence to voice how you see things and be resistant to any challenges that may come your way. But if you're thinking financially, Saturn, which for the last couple of years has been in your sector of long-term resources, creating some resistance, that is challenging the planet of opportunity, Jupiter, which itself is in a retrograde as this year begins. So you can't be too idealistic, I think, as you go into this new year, but you are being asked to certainly have the confidence to go for what you want to do from this starter chart right at the start of the month. Now, on the 3rd, Venus, the planet of relating, but critically also of money, moves forward from Aquarius, which I've just shown you, and into the sign of Pisces, which is your 8th house. If you're lucky enough to have a really good relationship with someone, it could get much closer. Conversely, as Venus moves forward and by week 3 connects with Saturn, if there is a relationship where things are not quite so solid, there could be a test. But also on the 3rd, much more productively perhaps, Mercury ends its post-retrograde shadow. If you have been finding that your social world or your creative world have not quite been flowing as fast and as smoothly as you would like, Mercury coming out of the post-retrograde shadow can ease things. It's also in a lively opposition with Jupiter at the start of this month and year, so there's every chance that things can brighten for you, but that inversion of Mars on the 6th from your sign into your 12th house does require some care, to be honest. And right through to the 18th of April, you could feel rather sensitive, even vulnerable, if you feel that other people's view of you does not conform to your own view. So if you feel that people are being unfair, don't really understand you, or you're becoming more conscious of the people who don't really have your best interests at heart, it's because in traditional astrology, Mars in the 12th house is the part of a chart which is to do with what's known as secret enemies. Now these days, our enemies are often on social media, but just be aware that there may be someone immediately around you who doesn't tell you how they feel, but may harbour some resentment, because the 12th house can be about secrets, but Mars clearly can be about ruthlessness, anger, and just bear that in mind and be watchful about who gets close to you. But on the 8th, Mercury moves out of the exuberant Sagittarius and into the business-like sign of Capricorn. If you do want to make some adjustments to any part of your strategy, the finer details that you attend to can actually be a real asset. Perhaps one of the year's most influential events occurs on the 11th. The true nodal axis switches to the North Node to Pisces, the point of destiny, and the South to Virgo. Virgo energy for you is what you can see. It's an earth sign. It's about your values, it's about your self-worth, but it's also about your foundational aspects of life. But it can be about everyday money. The 8th house, where the point of destiny has moved to, is very much about what we share with others, but it's also where we can be most invested. And that's going to be a big theme for you over the next 18 months. It will bring opportunities, but if you're involved in any business situation which you're not clear about, there could be some tests ahead, and that may be borne out as soon as week 3 with Venus playing catch up and applying to Saturn, because Venus can be about money, particularly in the 8th house. So if you're looking to raise some capital, or you're working with an investor, or you've got a different view of the strategy within a business as your partner, or even your romantic spouse, then that could be a tense moment. But also on the 13th, that Cancer full moon, which I mentioned before. The full moon in Cancer, it's very emotional, of course, very sensitive. It's very much to do with nurture. But for you, the 12th house is your psychological, emotional and spiritual world competing with the harsh practicalities of the sign of Capricorn, where the moon is in its detriment. So this is one of the most challenging full moons of any year, but because Mars is parked up right by the moon, the potential for old stuff that maybe you thought that you dealt with to suddenly boil up and come out over the last 2 weeks of this month is very strong indeed. But it could also give you the opportunity to liberate yourself with Uranus in a sextile to the full moon. Liberate yourself from a work or professional situation which just isn't working for you. So if you find yourself deciding to break out and look for a new role, have the confidence to know that your people skills and charisma can really start to glow in the second half of this month, not least from the 19th. The Sun moves into your opposite sign of Aquarius. It applies to Pluto on the 21st, ironically Pluto's birthday. Pluto, as you know, is about transformation, but it's also about power. It can be about consequences and outcomes. If there has been a relationship that hasn't gone as you would like, of whatever kind, the outcome, the culminative point of that particular alliance will be shown at this time. But you know, completely converse can be true. You could actually buy in to a new connection that feels absolutely fantastic, and it may be deeply committed. With also Mars in your 12th house linking to Uranus in the last 2 weeks of this month, don't underestimate old memories, skills, experiences, even contacts. A rejigging of your existing knowledge in a fresh way, but using that historical talent, could actually work out really well for you. But by the 28th, Mercury moves to join up with the Sun and Pluto in your 7th house. I love Mercury in the 7th house, and Mercury loves being in Aquarius. It's exalted or rises here. It also rules the second decan. But most of all, because Mercury in the 6th house can be quite brittle. It gets so caught up with details, it's hard for it to see the big picture. Whereas Mercury in the 7th is more like, okay, you have a different viewpoint to me, that's fine. We can agree to disagree, something that people find incredibly, it seems, difficult to do these days. But the new moon of the 29th is supercharged by both Mercury and Pluto. And if you're thinking Mercury, your willingness to transform, Pluto, and your desire of the Sun, and also your emotional connection to others, are all aligned well, particularly with Uranus, the modern ruler of Aquarius, going direct on the 30th. Some kind of new and very delightful possibility can unfold over the following month. And it could be a collaboration that can take you all the way to the stars. But that does require you to feel that you are a respected and appreciated element, or should I say component, of the overall. Because if you don't feel that you are an important player, you could lose interest. So a partnership for you gives you an opportunity to express yourself, but you do need to feel heard and seen, otherwise it will lose its allure. But if you do feel that it's very much a collaboration where you can use your undoubted skills and talents and personality power, and other people can complement you in a non-competitive way, it could be very, very productive indeed. And of course, the 7th house can be about romantic relationships. Is there going to be a new understanding that gets born from some of the challenges earlier in the month? If a relationship is really meant to stick around, absolutely. But it's also true that you could meet somebody new, but it doesn't have to just be in a romantic way. Just having that connection, the sharing of ideas, that simpatico, is something to really relish for sure. But just know as well, the 7th house, where that new moon occurs, is also about setting boundaries. Pluto could tempt you at the very start of this month, and particularly on the 3rd, when the opposition to Mars is exact, to almost over assert yourself. I really would try to resist that. Know that you have the power of Pluto to help you with your boundaries, but don't push too hard. There is also, at the very end of this month, from the 28th to the 31st, one of astrology's most fortunate influences of the Sun trining up with Jupiter. Jupiter is in a retrograde until just the 3rd of February, and therefore the desire to build new alliances and connections and networks may have been a little bit blighted over the previous, by then, 4 months. But there's still the chance you can have that accord or reach a connection with someone that's really scintillating as January comes to a close. A great month, and do check out your year 2025 deep dive video by clicking on the link underneath this one.